it's about time we listen to some John Zorn. So this is a chamber ensemble piece called For Your Eyes Only, and the full instrumentation is 1-1-1-1, 2-2-1-1, 3 percussion, harp, piano, 1-1-1-1-1. Now the percussion list is very extensive. First percussion has 4 timpani, vibe, xylophone, glock, tubular bells, handbells, belltree, crotals, 2 bongos, 2 triangles, crash cymbals, suspended cymbals, 2 tam-tams, flexitone, wind chimes, castanets, 2 maracas. Percussion 2 is 2 timpani, glockenspiel, tubular bells, handbells, herd bells, 2 bongos, tom-tom, 2 conga drums, cuica, timbales, bass drum, triangle, crash cymbal, suspended cymbal, anvil, tam-tam, thunder sheet, ratchet, slapstick, woodblock, 5 tempo blocks, 2 maracas. Percussion 3 is handbells, drum set, rototom, conga drum, triangle, crash cymbals, 2 tam-tams, claves, slapstick, guiro, and jawbone. Like of a donkey to play the teeth of the thing. Sorry, just grabbing some coffee. A couple weird things about this I'm noticing already. The orchestra list is not in proper order. We have the horn up in with the woodwinds and the second horn below the trumpets. Another problem I'm seeing is the first 2 percussionists are both playing timpani. If you know anything about budgeting an orchestra, I mean this is a chamber orchestra, so it might be different, but typically the timpanist is only paid to play timpani, and you have to pay them second paycheck basically to play any percussion instruments. So to have more than one percussionist play timpani, I think is a bit ill-advised. The third percussionist's drum set is snare, 2 rack toms, 2 floor toms, bass drum, hi-hat, and then 2 suspended cymbals, probably a crash and a ride. So you're like the most standard snare drum, the most standard drum set you could think of. There are some percussion effects that have to happen. You have to break glass, you have to put chains on metal, you have to break bottles, slam a door, hammer nail into wood, hammer nail on wood. You have to have 2 suspended cymbals on the vibraphone, and then you have to have a suspended cymbal on the timpani. And we'll see in the recording how these different effects are negotiated. It's interesting that he lists them separate from the percussionists, so it's really up to the 3 of them to decide where to do this, when to do it, who's doing it. A little bit about John Zorn before we start listening. So John Zorn is a American composer, conductor, saxophonist, arranger, and producer. He's based in New York, born in 1953. He established this record label Zadig, which you may be familiar with if you listen to noise music. It's the label that really brought prestige to Merzbow's vinyl records, and it's an experimental music label that's released a number of music, including John Zorn's own. He has founded a number of experimental bands, basically like avant-garde bands. Naked City is a very good example of this. It's the one I'm most familiar with, at least. And the genres that he has pioneered in include like grindcore, klezmer, jazz. Yeah, as a jazz performer, he has sort of hard bop credentials. As a member of the Sonny Clark Memorial Quartet. The whole idea with this piece is that it's imitating a TV, like flipping channels on a TV. So it's like if you had a remote and we're controlling an orchestra with it. Really, because he has such a strong background in jazz, his work centers around the production of records. It's not like scores are his only thing. The score is just a means to make a record. In concert music, it's just a way to communicate with classical musicians to make a record with them, basically. So that's what we're getting into today. If you want to listen along, link is in the description. This piece is about 13 minutes long, so it shouldn't take up much of your time. Yeah, so this was a lot of fun to follow along. Yeah, I think it had a lot of surprising amount of like classical sensibility, like the loud opening with the oboe solo right after really establishes what this piece is going to be doing, what it's about. And this ending, while a little bit cartoony and sort of like evil villain-y, sounds like an ending, right? And it's very small and immediate, but that sort of is in keeping with the rest of the piece. And there was, for example, some of the more dense textures where 2 or 3 things were going on at the same time were saved for the end. A lot of the longer stretches of things were saved for the second half, and a lot of like the solos were placed very smartly. There's another solo moment for oboe in the middle and a big flute moment at the end, towards the end. And there's also this harp glissando, which happens a minute from the start and also a minute from the end or so. So there's like some sort of formal thing going on, some symmetry, but it all feels very loose and improvised. The percussion the whole time was really cool. I like the use of harp and piano in soloist capacities. And yeah, I think it accomplished what it set out to do very well. So yeah, this is the only Zorn score that I have, but I'm glad we looked at it. It's very unique, and sometimes the stereotypical way of using instruments is the funnest way, and the most satisfying way to hear them. Hearing a drum set being played like a drum set, a harp just doing a cheesy gliss, is really satisfying in its own way. And yeah, I think the medium of chamber orchestra really suited this piece well. If this was for full orchestra, it would be less successful because chamber orchestra has this sort of like nebulous identity. Is it a chamber group? Is it an orchestra? Is it just a bunch of soloists? That medium really lends itself to this type of project specifically. So overall, pretty smart.